I'm here with Alexander Mercurs, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, we have more news on Ukraine Gate, and the impeachment and documents that have now dropped related to Rudy Giuliani, Lev Parnas, and some guy from Connecticut, I believe, running for Congress, Robert Hyde. I've never heard of this guy. So all of a sudden he's been inserted into the mix. Yovanovitch was being spied on supposedly in Ukraine, and we've got all these like napkin type of notes that Lev Parnas gave to the Democrats, and now they've thrown them into the impeachment mix, saying, look, we've got it now. We've got the smoking gun. There's text messages as well where these two guys, Parnas and Hyde, were I don't know, running some surveillance on Yovanovitch. The whole thing sounds utterly stupid. But anyway, get into this story, because this is the latest and greatest smoking gun that they have to prove that there was quid pro quo between Trump and Ukraine. And I just want to make a side note that Ukraine, from what we're understanding, Ukraine has decided to open up an investigation as to the fact that then Ambassador Yovanovitch may have been surveilled by this Parnas guy. So that's the latest news.
Okay. Let's unpack this. Now, first of all, I should quickly say that throughout the whole Trump presidency, I've heard this expression "smoking gun" used so many times that I'm absolutely, bored by it. Every so often, you get a sort of document dump. The Democrats or whoever comes up with a huge document dump. They tell us all sorts of things, that these documents or this revelation or this, we'd be Flynn talking to Kistak, or Donald Trump Jr. talking to a Russian lawyer in Trump Tower, that this is going to be the great smoking gun that's going to prove, the great evil and wrongdoing that's going on within the Trump White House or the Trump campaign. And then you drill into the detail and you discover that it's not any kind of smoking gun, and that in fact it isn't anything about anything. It's happened regularly. The second feature of all of these investigations is that the Democrats and their friends in the media invariably start off alleging one thing, and then when that isn't proved, they don't admit that it hasn't been proved. They switch to talking about something completely different. So if we go back to the origins of Ukraine Gate, this was supposed to be about Donald Trump putting pressure on the Ukrainians to start an investigation of John Biden. That was what it was supposed to be. No evidence for that has ever been really produced. I mean, we've had some guesses from Ambassador Sondland that might have been the case, but as we've discussed, even he admits that he never actually heard Donald Trump say anything like that. So now, when Donald Trump is supposed to be going through an impeachment trial on that original allegation, what we see is something completely different coming up, which is the alleged surveillance of Marie Yovanovitch, the Ukrainian ambassador, the American ambassador in Ukraine, in Kiev, by Lev Parnas and this man whom I've also, Radcliffe, or what was his name? I can't.
Hyde. Robert Hyde.
Robert Hyde. Whom I've also never heard of up till now, and who even Parnas apparently, it says, describes him as weird. Anyway, these two characters were running around supposedly spying on the U.S. ambassador in Kiev. Two things to say. Firstly, how do you spy on the U.S. ambassador? I mean, I'm trying to get my head around that. I mean, anybody who knows anything about how U.S. embassies work. I mean, you come from a diplomatic family. We've both been to U.S. embassies. Myself to the one in Athens. I'm sure you've been to the U.S. embassy. It's impossible. You can't just carry out surveillance of the U.S. ambassador. I mean, the Americans are surveilling you. It just doesn't work like that. But the other thing is, I have to say, this Parnas character, who's supposed to be providing all this information, he reminds me of Michael Cohen. Do you remember this dodgy lawyer who appeared during the Russiagate investigation, who was also supposed to provide all this, information, which in the end it turned out wasn't anything of substance. I mean, do you believe Parnas? Do you believe the documents he provides? I would have said you take it very, very carefully before you commit yourself to believing anything that comes from this man. I mean, he comes across to me as beyond dodgy, as we would say in England. But on top of any of this, what does any of this have to do with Donald Trump? If Hyde and Parnas, for reasons unknown to themselves, known only to themselves, were carrying out surveillance, however that's carried out, on the US ambassador in Kiev. And if they were doing it on behalf of Rudy Giuliani, well, good for them. But what does this ultimately have to do with Donald Trump? Why would Donald Trump, who is the president of the United States, who's able to sack an ambassador whenever he wants, why would he need people like Parnas and Hyde carrying out surveillance on the ambassador? I mean, this thing is just so zany. It makes so little sense that I suspect that that it doesn't make sense. And the reason it doesn't make sense is because ultimately there is no reality to this story. It seems to me what has happened is that the Democrats know perfectly well that the case they've taken to the Senate has absolutely no substance to it. There is no reality behind it whatsoever. And so they've been spending the last couple of weeks frantically looking around for something else that they can throw at Donald Trump in the hope, forlorn hope, that it will gain some traction in the Senate. I predict it won't, because I predict the senators, or at least the Republican senators, when they look at all of this nonsense, they'll say to themselves, well, nonsense is what it is. Maybe some people are up to some weird things, but I can't see that this is going to go anywhere at all. And I mean, it doesn't make any kind of sense, and there's no reason why it would.
Yeah, this guy Parnas submitted like scraps of paper and cocktail napkins where he took notes as to what was going on as he was surveilling Marie Yovanovitch.
Yeah.
And he was sending text messages to this Hyde guy. And okay, they were just talking all kinds of nonsense.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, people do. We know that. People do talk all sorts of nonsense to each other. And as I said, what dare I say, what somebody scribbles on a cocktail napkin isn't usually taken.
Yeah, they're not dated. There's no...
Exactly. They're not. Well, exactly. They're not taken usually as very convincing evidence.
No. You know what I think?
Yeah. Go on. Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, you know what I think? I think these guys got so excited that you're in Kiev, Lev. Why don't you just do this? And I think he got so excited that he actually thought he was going to be in the spy world. I don't know if you saw the movie Lethal Weapon, like number 2 and 3, where you had Joe Pesci, the Joe Pesci character who's hanging out with Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. And he's just so excited to be with these cool guys, spying and doing all this surveillance, all this, cop stuff, that it was just ridiculous. That's what this Lev Parnas guy is like, I think. I think he was just so excited, him and this Hyde guy, that they were, part of the Giuliani inner circle, and they were going to be spying on a U.S. ambassador. Yeah. They even said that she was under the protection of the FSB and the Russians.
The whole thing is absolute nuts. I mean, as I said, the whole thing is, some people really, I think you're right. I think they have been watching too many spy films and getting pulled along by far too much nonsense. But I mean, this is absolute nonsense. But let's go back to the substance of this. What does this have to do with Donald Trump? I mean, is it being alleged that Parnas was acting on Donald Trump's orders? Where are those orders? When did Parnas meet with Donald Trump? Well, clearly, obviously, he didn't. The whole thing is just, as I said, completely ridiculous. And if you carry out some kind of surveillance operation on the US ambassador in Kiev, frankly, how is that necessary? I mean, what is the surveillance amount to anyway? I mean, it doesn't seem to me to make any sense. And I would also caution against taking at all seriously any reports coming out of Ukraine that they're actually carrying out some kind of criminal investigation there. If you follow Ukrainian politics as closely as I do, you know that it's actually extremely easy to get a criminal investigation going. All you have to do is put in a complaint, and lo and behold, you've got a criminal investigation. It doesn't mean it's going to be taken anywhere.
Yeah, and it's easy to spark an investigation. All you have to do is just bribe someone in Kiev, and they'll open up an investigation. It's as easy as can be.
It's as easy as that. Exactly.
If you're surveilling someone, Alexander, you don't surveil. I mean, do you surveil with cocktail napkin notes and little scribbled pieces of paper, or texting someone from a car? I mean, that's not real surveillance of someone as prominent as an American ambassador.
Well, of course.
Or I have someone on the inside, he's saying, and she's, the protection of the FSB, and I have someone on the inside. I mean, this is Joker stuff, isn't it? This is not real spycraft.
It's not real spycraft at all. I mean, and as I said, what was the objective of it all? What was it intended to prove at the end of the day?